Hi, fight fans. I'm Kevin Iole from Yahoo Sports. I appreciate you joining me once again. I know the Super Bowl is Sunday, February 4th, but I think on Saturday, January 20th, for fight fans, this is really going to be a Super Bowl of sorts because there is a great boxing match on Showtime and there are two great MMA cards that are going to be held. So I wanted to give you some of my picks on those fight cards. Let's start with UFC 220, which will be at the TD Garden in Boston. The main and co-main event are fights that I really can't wait to see. I think are going to be fabulous fights. The heavyweight championship, Stipe Miocic will defend his belt in the main event against Francis Ngannou. I checked on the odds, and Ngannou, believe it or not, is a 2-1 favorite to defeat Miocic and become the UFC heavyweight champion. If you want to bet Miocic, you get plus 170 coming back. That should be a really good fight. And then in the co-main event that night is the light heavyweight championship, Daniel Cormier against Volkan Oezdemir, another intriguing bout. To start with the heavyweight title fight, Francis Ngannou is just a beast. He's been on an incredible roll, and if anybody saw UFC 218 in December when he fought Alistair Overeem, you're wondering, hey, you might be worried for Stipe Miocic's safety. Overeem got knocked out, was obliterated with a left uppercut that didn't even really land fully clean. Francis can hit so hard, and he's in magnificent shape. He's a big guy that has really dedicated himself. If you go to the UFC Performance Institute, he is there all the time. He moved to Las Vegas so he could take advantage of that. He's working out with a lot of the guys over there, and he has put himself into incredible shape. Stipe Miocic, on the other hand, is a guy that I don't think gets enough respect for how good he is. He was a terrific wrestler when he was at Cleveland State, where he really was a tremendous all-around athlete. He was a baseball player, just could do just about anything. He won Golden Gloves titles in boxing, and he is really an all-around fighter. And I think that is really the difference in this. Stipe Miocic has that ability to change where the fight is fought. You know, when they're fighting on their feet, Miocic has great boxing. You know, he has shown that throughout his career. He's got heavy hands. He knocked Fabricio Verdun when he was backing up. But he has that wrestling ability that we haven't seen from Ngannou at such a high level. So in this fight, even though Ngannou is the guy everybody's talking about, I'm going to take Stipe Miocic to win this fight. I think he's going to take Francis down, and I think he stops it late in the fight. He gets Francis on his back, and I think he'll stop it with ground and pound sometime third round or later. So I'm picking Stipe Miocic to retain the heavyweight championship. And if he does, he sets a UFC heavyweight record for most consecutive title defenses. That will be his third, and that will be the most, believe it or not, in UFC history. In the co-main event, Daniel Cormier puts his light heavyweight title on the line against Volkan Oezdemir. And I really don't think this fight is going to be much different than what we saw when Daniel Cormier fought Anthony Rumble Johnson twice. Johnson was this big guy who had heavy hands, who was knocking everybody out. And when he went to face Daniel Cormier, he just couldn't find a solution to Cormier's grappling. And I think Cormier's grappling is going to be the difference in this fight. Oezdemir is on a roll. In his last fight, he blew away Jimmy Manuwa, and that opened a lot of eyes. There's no question when he did that. But I believe Cormier also is a kind of guy that he has been there, done that. He's beaten a far better caliber of opponent than Oezdemir has, and I think Daniel Cormier will grind out a decision. It would not shock me if Cormier finished him, but I think it's more likely going to be a 50-45 type decision. So I picked Daniel Cormier also to retain his belt. In Bellator 192 is Saturday at the Forum in Inglewood, California, basically in Los Angeles, and that will be on the Paramount Network, formerly Spike. So if you're looking to see Bellator, go to the channel that Spike used to be on. It's now the Paramount Network. And they have two really interesting fights. In their main event, it's going to be the opening round of their heavyweight Grand Prix, and they're going to have two former UFC fighters. Former UFC light heavyweight champion Quinton Rampage Jackson is going to go up against Chael Sonnen, and that one, I really like Chael Sonnen. I think the wrestling is going to be the difference in the fight. Rampage, he complains about fighting wrestlers all the time. He doesn't like it. He wants guys that are going to stand there and slug with him, but you would be stupid to stand in front of Quentin Jackson and just trade bombs, especially a guy like Sonnen, who is really not a big guy. I mean, Chael told me he's going to weigh 212, 214, something like that for the event. And we know Rampage is far bigger than that. And Rampage's game is, using his big right hand, that power. He has a great left hook that we've seen on occasion. He knocked Chuck Liddell out with it many, many years ago. Rampage can punch. Chael Sonnen is a great wrestler, and it would be completely inane for Chael to try to stand there and slug with Rampage, and I don't think he will do that, and so I'm going to go with Chael Sonnen to win that fight. And then finally on the Bellator show, I want to make a pick on the welterweight title fight, which I think is a really good fight. Douglas Lima is a guy that doesn't get a lot of credit, but he's the Bellator welterweight champion. He is one of the best welterweights in the world. I don't care who you're talking about. Lima is very, very good. He's got great striking. He's got really everything to his game. I love his kicks. I wouldn't say he's as good a kicker as Edson Barboza, but he's in that league. And if you know how good of a kicker Edson Barboza is, then you will respect the kicks that Douglas Lima brings to the table. But he is fighting one of the most well-rounded guys in the sport in Rory MacDonald. And Rory MacDonald just knows how to shut guys down. He has proven that time and again. In his last fight, he did it against Paul Daly. And I expect MacDonald to find a way to neutralize Lima's offense. And I expect MacDonald to win a 5-round decision and win the Bellator welterweight championship. So in the Bellator fights, I'm taking 2 fights by decision, Chael Sonnen and Rory MacDonald to win those. And finally on Showtime, Showtime has a really good boxing card coming up. And in the main event of that one, and I cannot believe the odds on this. I absolutely can't believe it. Jeff Sherman, the very fine odds maker at the Westgate in Las Vegas, told me that in the main event, the IBF welterweight champion, Errol Spence Jr., the 2012 Olympian, is a minus 2,500 favorite, minus 2,500 favorite to win over Lamont Peterson, who is plus 1,100. And I'll tell you what, if I was a betting man, I might have to take a flyer on Lamont Peterson at that, because while I expect Spence to win the fight, Peterson is a really good fighter. And if you can get a fighter of that caliber at plus 1,100, I think you have to take a shot at it. But I think Spence might be the best fighter in the world. There's a lot of argument there of Vasyl Lomachenko, Terence Crawford, some people like Gennady Golovkin. There are a lot of really good fighters who are vying for that top spot. Errol Spence is among them. He's a left-handed fighter. He has a little bit of everything. And I think that this is a really good fight for him. And for people who did not see him against Kell Brook when he won the title, and you're going to watch that fight on Showtime on Saturday, you are going to be amazed at how good Errol Spence is. I look for it to be competitive in the first couple of rounds, for Spence to start breaking down Peterson. I'm going to pick a stoppage between, like, say, 5 and 7 rounds for Errol Spence Jr. I have great respect for Lamont Peterson. I think he is a very tremendously talented welterweight, but I don't think he stands up to Errol Spence Jr. I think Spence goes to 23-0. That is it. Those are my predictions. Let me know your predictions in the comments. I appreciate it. Keep it tuned here to Yahoo Sports. I appreciate you guys always. Till next time, see you soon.